I saw this discussion going around online. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to throw this out to Nick in the chat. So with guys like Bonds, Clemens, A-Rod, name your favorite player that's been snubbed. Dale Murphy, Don Mattingly. Does the Hall of Fame still matter to fans? And does it matter in the sense of, you know, do you love a player more because they're in the Hall of Fame? Does it even matter if they're in the Hall of Fame? Do you view them as a Hall of Famer in your own mind? Like, where does the Hall of Fame still stand with fans? And does seeing your favorite player enshrined there really even matter anymore?
That's a tough one. Because the Hall of Fame still holds clout, right? Like, if your favorite player makes the Hall of Fame, you're just like, hell yeah, like my favorite player is a Hall of Famer. Like, it still holds clout.
Yep.
Now, does it matter to me anymore? It is very quickly trending in that direction for me. Like, I could give or take the Hall of Fame at this point, and it's not even necessarily the steroid guys that I'm all up in arms about. It's how these guys are selected. It's gentlemen's club. We only let in who we like. Not stats don't matter anymore. So for me, it's just the inconsistencies of who gets in, who doesn't. It's lost its merit for me, I guess. I don't think it holds the same, I don't know the word I'm looking for, validity, I guess. Harold Baines is in. He's not a Hall of Famer to me. Like,
Yep.
Hall of Fame for me is Roberto Clemente, Willie Mays, Ted Williams, Babe Ruth, like the best of the best. Pedro Martinez, Randy Johnson, to bring it more modern, right? Those guys where it's like, these guys were clearly the best of their generations, right? So to me, the hall itself doesn't matter to me. And I think it's because of the inconsistencies of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I was going to say is summed up very nicely by Forrest. We all have our own personal halls of fame we carry with us in our hearts. And feel like my favorite players, many of them are not Hall of Famers, but it doesn't change how I view them. Like, I don't, for example, in the picture, I don't view Barry Bonds as a lesser player because he's not in the Hall of Fame. One of my favorite players of all time is still Nomar Garciaparra. Was never going to be a Hall of Famer based on his career path. Okay. Like, I really enjoyed watching him play. I really enjoyed watching a lot of guys play. Some guys are Hall of Famers, some guys aren't. To me, the Hall of Fame doesn't validate a guy's career for me. The players that meant something to me, the players that I followed, the players that I most closely, cared about, to me, the Hall of Fame is irrelevant. Like, I find I don't care. And I will say with the direction, to your point, of where the Hall of Fame has gone, I'm not sure that it's the same honor that it used to be. And I feel like the Hall of Fame has gone from really a museum and shrine for the fans to really just like a career achievement for the players. And the fans are kind of like, meh, my favorite guy is Dale Murphy and he should be in there. But so this thing's irrelevant. I think to your point, the inconsistencies have heavily, I would say, kind of tainted the Hall of Fame in the eyes of the fans. And in many cases, I think a lot of fans don't put a lot of weight on it anymore.
Yeah. So, Marty, it's funny you say this, need a Hall of Good. Now, there is a website out there that does this, and it's pretty dang awesome. It's actually MLBHallofGood.com. And they do have some, stipulations in order to get in, but you can vote for players to get in. So they vote for guys like Hideki Matsui, Eric Hosmer, Denard Span, Scott Kazmir, Jason Kipnis, Kurt Suzuki, Jackie Bradley, Carlos Pena, Ricky Weeks. So all those guys that were like pretty good, but would never be considered Hall of Famers, right? I mean, we talk about those guys that get lost from that 10 to 15 year range, right? Because there's they didn't have the longevity, so they didn't have the numbers. They don't go in the Hall of Fame. And it just seems like those guys from years 10 to 15 get lost or get very little consideration. And that's what this website does, and it's voted on by fans. It's it's pretty cool website. So take a look at that. Like I said, MLB hallofgood.com, and they break down the profiles and everything like that. So it's pretty well put together. But
that's cool.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool website, and I saw a whole story on it the other day, so it's pretty awesome. Yeah, Forrest, this is a great point. Also, someone needs a reminder that there does not have to be an induction every year if it's not warranted. 1,000%, and I think that's where they've kind of gotten to the mediocrity, right? There's been a mediocrity, whatever. Yeah, I got it.
You're
so
good.
Anyways, I think, they're like, well, man, we really need one this year. Like, is there anyone that's borderline? All right, Harold Baines, you're in, like kind of like one of those deals. And
yeah,
that takes away from the prestige of the Hall of Fame title for sure.
Yeah. So some other good comments in chat, John Temple mentioning, we don't get a say, so who cares anymore? Just attained as the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I mean, not wrong. Ryan, certainly not as important to me as it once was. It's a museum more to me now than an elite club. I mean, that's fair. I think the Hall of Fame to me is very much a baseball museum, and then there's some guys that are honored, but it's not necessarily important to me who's honored. Marty says matters to me, no Bonds, Clemens, or Rodriguez. I mean, yeah, I mean, I think that people that have a problem with the steroid era like it this way. Those that don't have a problem with the steroid era find this to be a huge omission. It depends on what side of that argument you're on.
I'm not even, let's put the steroid argument aside for a minute though, right? Those guys never existed in MLB history, right? They're out of our minds right now. You let in a guy like Harold Baines that didn't really have a peak and didn't hit the career milestone numbers. And then you have guys like Mattingly and Dale Murphy who had insane 5-year peaks, and they're nowhere to be found on this ballot. So to me, it's the inconsistencies of that. Now, I get it is really hard to compare player to player because baseball is so vastly different, and different aspects, players are different in different aspects of the game, different tools of the game, if you will. I get that. But if you're going to leave Mattingly and Murphy out, you have to leave out Harold Baines. I'm sorry if you're a Harold Baines fan, but to me, that's when this started to really get gray and wishy-washy. I have no problem. If you want to put a stance and say no steroid guys in, fine. But sure. It's not even that I'm talking about. It's the other guys that you have let in because, there was 10 Chicago writers voting on that veterans ballot for Harold Baines. So yeah, obviously he's going to get in, right? It's just, they let in who they want to let in and they keep out who they want to keep out. And that part I can't stand.
Yeah. There's two camps here. There's the steroid era guys that are a huge issue for some. And there's also the guys that just didn't get the support they probably should have, or got support that not everybody thinks they deserved. And there's guys in that Hall of Fame you could argue don't belong. There's guys that aren't in there that you could argue do belong. I mean, Vada Pinson, we heard his case. He's got a pretty damn good case. He's not in there. Yeah. It's really hard because the voting is not objective. It's not just, were you a great baseball player? Yes or no. It's very subjective. Were you liked? Were you a nice guy? What market were you in? There's so many other factors that go into it.
Yeah. And Marty, we are totally on board with you on this. It needs to be former players, former coaches, former GMs in a boardroom and being like Harrison Smith, Alex Rodriguez, in or out. Yes or no? Okay. Nick Arno, Alex Rodriguez, yes or no? And just go right around the table. Absolutely agree. The writers need to stop. Joseph, good question. Did Baines get in by being the first real good full-time DH? Again, I don't want a real good player in the Hall of Fame just because he was the first to be really good at it. I want an elite guy in there. But that's a fair question. I don't know the answer to that. Maybe that was part of it.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's a good explanation, Joseph. It's a museum, plain and simple, just like the Louvre. They can decide who to display and not to display. It's really not for us to choose.
Yeah, fair. Yeah.
It's kind of how it feels. Like I feel like the Hall of Fame used to be something that fans really felt not some ownership in, but like a connection to. And I feel like that it's kind of faded. Like the Hall of Fame to me is just not as big a deal as it once was. Like I don't pay as much attention to the ballots when they come out each year as I used to. Like I don't worry about it if guys don't get in, because to me, the guys that meant something, I'll always view in the same light, whether they're in there or not.
And also, question, like, as we're getting older, right? We have seen our childhood heroes, like, they're in the Hall of Fame, right? Like Griffey's in, Pedro Martinez is in,
Yep.
Randy Johnson is in. Is this also us getting older and seeing this back half of the class kind of go in, and we've just naturally lost interest because like our childhood heroes are already in, or like there's already been decisions made on them? Is that part of this?
I think there's an aspect of it that is related to that. Yeah, I mean, there's, the biggest imprint baseball had on me was absolutely as a, from like the ages of like 9 to 18, and all those the guys you rattle off, the guys that played from 93 to 2003. Those are the guys that I remember the most. But I will say, like, my fanhood hasn't changed over the years. I have found I'm more interested now in players than teams. Like I just like to watch good baseball. I don't care if it's my team, another team. I find I follow it differently. But I don't feel as vested in players anymore. Like I'm able to kind of sit back and enjoy it, and take it in for what it is. Good baseball is good baseball.
Yeah, I'm with you too, Harrison. Chad says, I'm in the same camp as Nick. If C-League is in, then guys like Bonds, Big Mac, A-Rod should be in. No way the commissioner of MLB didn't know what was happening. And I've been a huge component of that. That's my mic drop moment on any steroid guys in the hall talk, on any podcast I go. This one, that is my end-all, be-all argument. You can't keep those guys out and then celebrate the commissioner for that time period that knew damn well what was going on and chose not to do anything about it. So that's it on that. Michael, if Nick Arno doesn't get in, I'm never going back to Cooperstown. Well,
we'll have to get in as broadcasters, Nick.
Yeah, we'll see.
But like I will say, like I remember as a kid, like I used to love to get the Bill James handbook every year, and I would rip that apart to understand players' tendencies, ballpark tendencies, because to me, I love to understand like the game inside the game. But I was always really, I would say, realistic with players. Guys that I loved, like you could admit where they weren't good. You could see where they weren't good. Like I wasn't one of those rose-colored glasses fans where like my favorite players could only do good. And I do think there are some people on like the Mattingly and Dale Murphy bandwagon that only see the good and ignore kind of the remainder of the argument. And I do think that in some cases is part of the problem here, is that their fans become so attached to the player that they just can't handle the fact that other people don't see him the same way.
I mean, that's a fantastic point, because we have talked about, Murphy's and Mattingly's like downslide because of injuries or what have you, like, and that seems to be left out of the argument for sure. But that's a fantastic point. Joseph says nobody had an issue with amphetamine 70s or cocaine 80s players. Yeah, but
no.
No.
Because as Bandit Healer would tell you, it was the 80s, man.
Right. Yep. So, yeah.
Everybody was having fun in the 80s.
But to wrap up this conversation, to me, I'm sure it still matters to some fans, but to me, does it still matter? Sure. Still holds some clout, but it is starting to lose its validity to me.
Yeah, so. And I'm with you. It doesn't matter like it used to. It's
a cool
accomplishment. It's a cool museum. It's not much more than that.